Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Edupedia world, and I am Abhinay Gupta. So today again we are continuing with the winding up of the companies, right? And the provisions for this chapter are contained in the Companies Act 1956, right? So in the immediate preceding lecture we have discussed in detail about the concept of liquidator, the provisions relating to the liquidator, both the official liquidator as well as the provisional liquidator, right? So if any one of you still have any doubt with that or have not been through that lecture so far, please go back to the previous lecture, understand the concept of the liquidator and the provisional liquidator, and then start with this class, with this lecture, right? So the basic topic under consideration for today's lecture would be the duties of the liquidator, right? So far we have already discussed who a liquidator is, who a provisional liquidator is, when are they appointed, what are their responsibilities, what are their powers and everything, right? Today we'll understand what are their duties, right? So before starting with the important points, before going with the bullet points and the entire content, let us on a layman's term try and understand who a liquidator is, right? So far, right, we know that we are doing the chapter of winding up, and we know that the winding up proceedings are being conducted by the liquidator, right? So what do you do? What do you think? Who is a liquidator, right? Basically, understand the fact that liquidator is nobody but just an agent. He is one person who has been appointed or who has been employed with the company for that short duration for the specific task of winding up the company. So he's the agent of the court, he is the agent of the central government, right, who has come to you to help you out with the process of winding up, right? We can also consider him to be trustee in certain cases, that he has come because the creditor, they wanted a voluntary winding up, they think that they are losing out on their money, they are not being paid on time, the liabilities of the companies are increasing, and the debts are increasing, and they're not able to pay the creditors. So the creditors think that okay, there are some things that we should receive, let us wind up the company, whatever sale proceeds we have, we'll distribute it. So for that purpose they have filed the petition for winding up. So the liquidator, when he comes at this time, he is coming in as a trustee, right, either for the creditors or the contributories or the company or anybody, right? But he is not a trustee for each individual creditors, please mind that, right? So when the liquidator comes to the company, what does it start doing its work? How does it start? What does it do, right? So whenever the court has appointed an official liquidator, right, so he is now the sole and whole person with the entire power and the entire functionality of the winding up proceeding. So when he comes, he will ask the directors, he'll ask the management to give him the financials, to give him the necessary books, the records, the papers, the documents, the data. Because first of all, he needs to understand the company. He needs to understand the position, the balance sheet position, the position of the asset, the position of the liability. How much do they have? What can be realized? Who can be paid with that? What is the preference? Right? So first of all, he will get all the data. He'll get all the books, the notes, the documents, and he'll start scanning through it, right? While he is scanning through the data and the management is sitting in front of the liquidator, he would also make an inquiry from that document and also from that person who is sitting in front of him, and try to analyze basically the complete list of contributories. Contributories, the people who are supposed to bring in the fund to help the winding up, to be able to meet the liabilities of the company, right? They'll also prepare the list of liabilities that the company has. Okay, there are 7 major creditors, 21 small creditors. So this is the list, this is the amount due to them. Okay, so now we understand what is to be paid, how much is to be paid, and to whom is it to be paid, right? Then they'll also prepare a list of all the assets that the company has. Why? Because they need to now dispose those assets. They need to see how much will they be able to realize when they sell this asset in the market, and the sale proceed that they get back from that asset, that sale proceed will be utilized now to pay off the liabilities that they have, to pay off the creditors, to pay off their debts, right? That is basically the task of the liquidator, right? And then after he has prepare the list of contributories, taken in money from them, the call that was pending, the other liabilities that they have to pay to the company, the dues they have to the company. With that fund, they started paying off the liabilities, paying off the creditors, the dues, the debts, and everything. And if it is not paid, if they don't have surplus to pay, then they will go preference wise. There are important areas for which they'll set aside the money, that is for the administrative purpose, for the income tax purpose and stuff, right? Otherwise they'll again give away all the money to the liability holders, to the creditors, right? And if they at the end have surplus fund, if they're able to do the winding up procedures in a good manner, and the company was having that net worth, the company was having some substantial value, and the entire liability of the company could be paid, and still they have some surplus fund, then they will make sure that the surplus fund goes back to those people who have contributed to the funds of the company, right? So even that is the responsibility of the liquidator. So if there is any contributor who is not supposed to pay anything, right, and there's nothing due, but still his name will be included in the list of contributory. Why? Because there's any surplus remaining, maybe he gets a portion. So at least for that allocation you will have to give your name over there, right? So that is basically the overall procedure, the general procedure. Yeah, at some specific times when there are circumstances like that, the liquidator may also proceed with the beneficial winding up, where it continues the business of the company for some time. It tries to realize the assets, tries to get the operating income out of the company. There are a lot of stock in hand, so it tries to clear those stock, right? Lot of clients whose services are yet to be completed, so maybe will dispense off with their services and get the fees from them. So whatever be the purpose, right? The other thing is that they can also continue with the beneficiary winding up, right? So this is the overall duty of the liquidator. If we talk about the general thing, the overall, the route map, what do you think, the bird eye view, right? Now we get into the detail and understand what are the specific duties of the liquidator as per the act, right? You have also had questions on this, and one question was in your recent examination, that is CA final November 2014. That was very recent, right? So this topic is gaining importance in your current situation, right? So now let us see each duties in detail. So number one, conduct of the proceedings in winding up. So basically the prime responsibility of the liquidator is to conduct the proceedings in winding up of the company and perform such other duties also as the court may impose on the liquidator so to perform, right? So this is the basic responsibility, because that is the only cause for which you have been appointed. You have to continue and complete with the procedures of winding up so that the company can be dissolved, right? The second thing is, the second duty is not to make secret profit. You know, the liquidator is in a fiduciary position, right? He has all the assets in his hand, he has all the liabilities list, the list of contributories. There is a lot of funds flowing in and out from the hands of the liquidator, right? So there can be at times that liquidator sell off the assets at a really low price to someone that he knows, and at the end, like I'm just giving a hypothetical example, right? And in the end what he'll say is, after the job is done, bro, give me 50% of the money. So if there was an asset whose worth was rupees 5 crores, the liquidator may sell it off for 50 lakhs, right? And then would say that at the end, after 1 year, please pass on 1.5 crores to me. That is making secret profit, right? There are certain people who need their money, so liquidator will try and sort out their liabilities first, and at the end charge commission from them. That is another way of making secret profit, right? So there's a lot of opportunity open for the liquidator, whereby the liquidator can make secret profit, and there's a very limited check on that, right? So the act says that as per his duty, he is not supposed to make any secret profit, and that is also one reason why the fees of liquidation, the fees to the liquidator is not paid by the company. It is being paid by the central government. So it is directly in the hands of the CG, nobody else interference in between, right? Now when the liquidator goes to the company and starts the performance of the work, right, don't you think it will be unjust to wait till the end and then get the report? The court gets the report, okay, this is what has happened, that is what you have done, okay, well and good. Now if there's something that the court thinks that there was a remedy for this, or some other action could have been taken that was better, right? Or maybe the court thinks that if there's some fact that was known to the court in advance, the court could have found out some remedies for it. There was a certain course of action that could have been taken. But now, since it's too late, at the end, after the winding up is done, I have the report. So that is not going to help. That is why the liquidators are basically supposed to provide a preliminary report to the court. They submit a preliminary report, right? And that will be as soon as they receive the statement of affairs of the company, right? From the management, from the directors of the company, right? When they are there for the winding up purpose. And for this, the preliminary report shall be submitted within the maximum period of 6 months of the winding up order, right? But yeah, if there are reasonable situations and it can be explained, then the court may extend these procedures, extend the deadline. That okay, if it is not 6 months, you take 2 more months, but give me a proper preliminary report, right? So what are the contents of this report? If we talk about what are the things that they will include over there. So first thing they will include is the amount of issued capital and subscribed capital and the paid up capital. Okay, this is the amount of capital that issued, out of which this is subscribed and only this is paid up. So that means we have certain calls that can be made. So if we have less funds after disposing of the assets, we would have to make the call. We'll have to call the money for the pending money for the shares, right? Then it also gives out the details of the asset, the estimated amount of asset, right? And they will separately give the particulars of the cash and the negotiable securities that the company has, right? The debts due from the contributors, that is an asset, right? The people who are giving in the money, the call money or any other liability that they have, so that is the money that would flow into the company, that is an asset. So you'll have to give the detail of that separately. Okay, this is the amount of debt that is flowing in, right? The debts due to the company and securities, if any, which is available in respect thereof. That means apart from the contributories, if there are any other debts which are due to the company has made an investment, the company has advanced some loan or something, and that has to be repaid. So that is a debt which is due to the company. And when the winding up proceeding has started, whatever be the date, they have to be repaid now, whatever be the debt, right? You cannot continue with the debt and say, okay, I'll pay off later. Why? Because there's no company after that. So your agreement, your contract, the deed will not be valid because the company would be dissolved. So if you have taken any debt, please repay it. Now the company is being wound up, the company needs the money. Forget about the interest. Forget about giving out the loan. I want the money back, right? So he'll give out the list of the debts which are due to the company, right? Then if the company has any movable, immovable properties, then again the detail for them has also to be submitted, because even the court will be aware of what is the total value, what are the kinds of properties the company have. Is it possible to dispose of these things? If there is some material challenge with the disposing of with any property, then even that will be looked out, right? And at the end, if there is any unpaid call, even that is an asset to the company and that has to be disclosed, right? So when we're talking about the assets, we again listed down that you disclose the cash and the negotiable instrument, the debts due from the contributors, the debts due from other parties, the movable, immovable properties, and the unpaid calls, right? Then the content will also contain the estimated liability of the company. What is the total liability to the creditors, to the loan repayment, or to the debts that have been taken, anything, any dues that the company has to pay, right? What is the estimated amount of liability, right? And if the liquidator has investigated and come to know about the cause of the failure behind the company, they'll also inform the court what is the cause of the failure. If these things had been taken care of, the company may not have failed. So you know what happens is this gives a chance to see if there is any way out. If you know the cause of the failure, there is a chance of rectification, there is a chance of coming out of that position, that today's position, right? And at the end, the further inquiry, which means the liquidator will also show that if there is any further investigation which is required with the matters which is relating to the promotion, formation, and the failure of the company or the conduct of the business. If you want me to get detail into this, these are the facts that I'm giving it to you, but if you want me to get into the details of it, give me time, give me the order, give me the permission. I will go and investigate as to what is the cause of failure. Was there any fraud committed while forming the company or something? Because again, those things have to be looked out very seriously and in a different manner. That won't be included in the general proceeding of liquidation. Right? So that would be the content of the preliminary report that is submitted to the court. Next we have to issue the further report. Right? So this is not a mandatory thing. The preliminary report is a mandatory thing, but the further report is again not the conclusive report at the end of the liquidation. No. Further report is that, okay, in the preliminary report you have mentioned certain facts which was not very clear to you now, but you have been into the investigation of the same and you found out something new. You found out something extra and you want to communicate it to the court. So in that case you would give out a further report as well. Right? Like in the previous report we saw that they wanted to investigate into the formation of the company, the promotion of the company, the cause of the failure. So if they get any extensive data on that, any extensive evidences on that, they can again issue a further report to the court. Right? And if we talk about it, the basic content of that further report would be the particulars regarding the promotion and the formation of the company. That is number one. Number two is if they have identified any fraud that has been committed by any person in the formation of the company. Right? And third, if they have seen any fraud committed by any officer of the company since its formation. That means two things. First, you're talking about all the particulars regarding the promotion and formation. Second, fraud which was committed for the promotion and formation, and the fraud which was committed after the promotion and the formation of the company. Right? These are the basic things that has to be included in the further report. And then again there is a general provision that if there is any other matter which in the opinion is desirable to bring to the notice of the court, then even that matter will be included in the further report. Right? And then if you find that there are some people who are guilty of fraud, right, guilty of committed fraud in the formation and the promotion of the company, then the court will have the power to direct that any such person who is charged with that fraud, on whom the fraud has been proven, right, he shall be publicly examined. Right? Even that would be depending upon the conclusion of the further report. Right? Then we talk about the custody of the company's assets and the company's property. So we have already seen that when the winding up proceeding begins, right, the liquidator will take charge of all the properties, all the effects, all the actionable claims, everything that the company has, because the liquidator now needs to dispose them off. Now they need to pay off the liability, so no assets should be remaining because there is no company that will be remaining. What will he do with the assets? Right? So everything will be vest with the liquidator. He'll take the custody of all the assets and all the properties of the company. But again, there is one clarification. When we talk about taking away the properties, understand that the properties will vest with the company. It will be in the name of the company. The ownership of the property will not transfer to the liquidator. That will always vest with the company. But the court will take charge, will take the custody of these assets now. Right? Because these assets need to be disposed. And the liquidator will be assigned as the custodian for these assets. Right? So when you are disposing of the asset, the deed of sale would be entered between the company and the party who is purchasing it. It is not between the liquidator and that party. Because the ownership of the property do not pass to the liquidator. The liquidator is only acting as the custodian to those properties. Right? And for the purpose of taking the custody of the property, the liquidator may approach the district magistrate for assistance. Right? And then the district magistrate can help them to take the custody of the property. And if there is any specific step to be taken, any force to be applied to take the custody, then that would be allowed. And the district magistrate would help the liquidator to apply that force to take away the custody of the property. Right? And then the liquidator, has a lot of power in his hand. There is a chance of any misstatement. There is a chance of making the secret profit and everything. Right? There are other things. And since it is a large volume, then now the liquidator is the sole person taking responsibility of the entire company, the operations, right? Everything, disposing of the assets, paying off the liabilities. So they are required to maintain a proper book. A proper books of accounts and other records have to be maintained by the liquidator. Right? He should also maintain the minute of the books of the meetings of the creditors and the contributories. right? And if any of the creditor or the contributory wants to inspect such books of account that are maintained by the liquidator, they can at any point of time do so, but they will do that under the control of the court only. Otherwise they will not be allowed to do such things, right? Now there are two more duties of the liquidator that we need to see in detail, right? Which are the presentation of the account and the duty to submit the information as to the pending liquidation. And these two topics will, right, they will require a little in-depth discussion with certain points, and they will also require some time to discuss, right? Since we have already discussed a lot in this lecture, what I would suggest is we could take up these two topics in the subsequent lecture, because they will take a substantial amount of time, maybe 10-15 minutes, right? So we'll take up those two topics in the next lecture, right? So far let us conclude what we have seen in this lecture today. So we have seen the duties of the liquidator. Overall duty is to take away the assets of the company, dispose it off, pay off the liability, make a list of all the contributories, the list of all the creditors, right? How much you realize, how much you need to pay, and everything, right? Then we see that the duty, the main duty, is to conduct the winding up proceedings, not to make any secret profit, because yeah, they are in a position to make a lot. And then they also have to issue a preliminary report within a maximum period of 6 months, and that will contain the list of all the list of capital, assets, liabilities, the causes of the failure, and if there is any further inquiry that is needed. Then after that preliminary report, they can also issue a further report, which is not mandatory. But if you issue the further report, that can be issued when you have certain specific information to provide, which would be like, what are the particulars of the promotion information, what are the frauds that were related to the promotion information, the fraud that were in effect after the promotion information, and if there is any other certain matters to be disclosed, it would be disclosed in the further report, right? Then we know that the liquidator will take away all the assets and the properties of the company, but that does not mean that the properties would vest to the liquidator. It would not be transferred to the name of the liquidator. The liquidator will not be the owner. The court basically takes into custody these properties, and the liquidator is the custodian for those properties only, right? And for the purpose of taking the custody, if at any point of time it thinks that it needs the support of the district magistrate, it would approach the district magistrate, and the district magistrate would help him in return to take the custody of those books and properties, of those assets and properties, right? And then the books of accounts have to be maintained by the liquidator in detail. They will record all the transactions, whatever assets they have sold, whatever amount they have realized, whatever amount they have paid to the liabilities, for the liability to the creditors, and what are the other amounts that are pending, what are the amount that he has set aside for the administrative purpose, what is the amount set aside for the income tax purpose, and everything, every small step that it has been taken into the company. And the creditors and the contributories at any point of time can inspect these books of account, but under the supervision of the court, right? And the last two duties, that is the presentation of account and the duty to submit information as to pending liquidation, will be taken up in the subsequent lecture. So until then, this is Abhinay Gupta signing off, and in the next subsequent lecture we'll discuss in detail the other last two parts and move on with the further topics, right? So until then, please stay tuned. This is Abhinay Gupta signing off. Thank you. Bye-bye.